advanced technology in workers' well-being. As you might have noticed, that the webinar will be recorded for internal purposes and reporting needs. Since this event is part of the HeCenter project, HeCenter is Interreg Alpine Space project that is focusing on technologies of industries 5.0. And the reason why HeCenter focuses on this type of technologies is because we feel that they are strategic for the success of the companies and competitivity of the companies. Industry 5.0, even if it's not from the scientific point of view, not everybody agrees on the meaning of the term, but in general, the 5.0, what we want to mean is to join the three pillars of competitivity. That means new technologies, innovative technologies, sustainability, and also social positive impact. And so this is why today we talk about the role of advanced technologies in improving workers' well-being and so on. First of all, let me thank the speaker of today. Let me also introduce myself. My name is Marco Galanti. I'm the head of the innovation service in C2I, that is the lead partner in the center project. And we have the pleasure of having today Matteo De Marchi from the University of Bolzano, Alexander Matke from the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, and we will have also Per Mattia Vesani from Ukido, that is a company from Northeast Italy. As I mentioned before, social aspects are often underestimated when we talk about innovation and technologies, but as the speakers today will show you, will demonstrate you, the human-centric approach in general is what allows to fully put in the real world the potential of the innovation, because obviously otherwise it's often difficult to have a product that is successful if you don't focus on the users, as in the same time it's very difficult to be productive if you don't focus on the workers' well-being and so on. And so in the Senate project, we plan for pilot actions that will be a very important part of the project in the upcoming months. So you will receive also some information about the opportunities that are available to the companies. The final goal is to help companies to start implementation of new technologies paths. An important thing about this is that currently we are also collecting the needs and the goals of the companies. So you will receive also in the follow-up email of this event a link to a survey that we ask you to fill in. This will allow us to better understand, even better understand the needs of the companies and try to improve even more the pilot action that will be available. this is the second transnational workshop that is being carried out in this part of the recent project. A couple of weeks ago, we had another workshop that focused uh, on the skills, basically, on the concept of how you can future-proof your skill, because the challenge in this these times is that technologies are evolving very rapidly. They have lots of challenges from a macroeconomic point of view. You know that from the since the pandemic, there have been always some type of disruption of the approach of the model of the supply chains and so on. And in our view, the Industry 5.0 is one possible answer to one of the answers to the challenges that the companies face, because the final goal of Industry 5.0 is to be more resilient in the end. So one of the discussion that often is made is about the desire also of maybe bring back manufacturing from abroad to have a more local supply chain and so on. And this is something that is uh, strongly felt in the alpine space region. And but trying to be a manufacturer today in the alpine space region is challenging, because you need to be competitive and to be efficient, productive, and so on. And this is why new technologies are one of the pillars of this. But it's not enough to be productive. You are also to be sustainable, to be compatible with the environment you are located in. So it's not, you cannot think about manufacturing in Europe in general now having a very negative impact on the environment. You need to have zero impact, if not positive. So the focus on the environment is key. It's something that is needed to be manufactured today in Europe. And last but not least, you need also to attack talents, as they say. So focusing on the worker well-being is something that is absolutely needed to find workers, because people now are changing very much the approach to work. And so this is why this pillar is especially important, and is not always considered as it should, but is absolutely crucial, because being able to focus on the worker well-being and this is something that you can do it in many ways, as we will see later in today's webinar, is something that is a real tool to be competitive. Before giving the word to the next speaker, to the first speaker, for today's webinar, we would like to be a bit interactive, even if it's not possible to have a normal meeting, since the number of participants would not allow it. But we have prepared a few questions that will pop up in during the webinar, and we would like yeah, all participants to give the answer. It's just to interact and to better understand your opinion and your feelings about the new technologies and the challenges that we are facing. So I'd say that we might start with the first interactive question, so that we can start from knowing you a bit better. So what we would like to ask you is how much the new technology, advanced technology, can contribute to improve the well-being of you. Um, Feel free to answer as you think it's the most correct way. And we will discuss all the answer in the final part of the workshop. In the meanwhile, I'd like to give the word to Matteo De Marchi of the University of Bolzano. Matteo, please.
Thank you, Marco. Can you hear me properly? Is it fine?
Yes.
Ah. I also start sharing my PowerPoint so that you can confirm you see the slides. All right. Do you have me? Good. So, good morning, everybody, also by my side. My name, as previously announced, is Matteo De Marchi. I'm currently an assistant professor at the Free University of Bolzano, located in the very northern part of Italy, for those who are not familiar with our geography. And our intervention, my talk about for today, is entitled From Factory to Fulfillment, the Value of Human-Centric Innovation. This should be the first talk of today's webinar and should serve as an introduction to the different types of perspectives that we can have on the topic of human centricity when it comes to manufacturing and to Industry 5.0 especially. First of all, a few words about ourselves so that you can also see the slides and hear my talk with my own perspective. We are a research center, we are a laboratory that basically represents a triangle in between teaching, so students, and industry. Idea is to learn as much as possible from industry and support industry with research. And then serve students with what we learn from practice in industry in order to provide always the most advanced and the most up-to-date content to the people that are actually going to be the future of both research and industry. What we do is applied to pure automation, but also to human-centric and human factors, because the two things nowadays we believe are extremely close the one to the other. Therefore, these two research streams must operate in a parallel way. For a bit of context, where we are today, we are at the edge of the fourth industrial revolution, technologically speaking. We have already heard of the term of Industry 5.0, now we are coming to this. But if we start looking from, let's say, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, main focus was about mechanization, electrification, automation. So the human being was rarely the focus of the revolutions. So we try to be always more effective, always more efficient, always more productive. We were trying to decrease the lead times in order to increase as much as possible our productivity, very often forgetting about the sustainability of our endeavors, as well as the role of the human being in our factory. If we remember the movie about Charlie Chaplin working in the factory, that was and it still is a perfect example of how the industrial revolutions actually affected the human beings, in that case, in a bad way. Today, we have the chance to exploit a large landscape of technology provided by the fourth industrial revolution that is around since already 15 years, more or less. So it represented a technological push. This means that the fourth industrial revolution introduced in our everyday life a number of technologies and approaches that allowed us to be, again, faster, better, more efficient, having higher quality and higher production rates. But today, we are somehow stopping for a second, that's the idea, and looking at what we have at the moment and trying to understand how can we exploit these technologies, these approaches, these techniques in order to also exploit the role of the human being in the best way possible. And by saying exploiting, I don't say exploiting in a negative way, but in a constructive way. So exploiting both from the capabilities that a human being can put at our disposal, but also from the perspective of the human being itself. So how can the human being be somehow happy in the role of the everyday life in the company? And this works starting from the shop floor up to the C-levels. Because the technological changes affect everybody, not only the shop floor, not only the operator that work with the machines, but also the engineers, the green collar, the white collars, up to the C levels. So what we are experiencing today is a paradigm shift from the industry 4.0 towards the industry 5.0. And in this, the focus on the human-centric idea that we will see more in detail in a while is the focus of our talk today. We have several different technologies that may affect positively or negatively the role and the human beings in our factories, again, at every level of the hierarchies. And therefore, we have to try to understand which can be the role of human beings in the new advanced manufacturing systems or productive systems. This means that, for example, we have to pay attention to the sharing of knowledge, to the experience and expertise of each of our individual within our company. And also we have to try to understand how we are going to rebalance the responsibilities within our company. And this is one of the major challenges, I think, for the modern days. Not trying to revolutionize the definition of Industry 5.0 that Marco introduced a while ago. I would like to propose these three pillars for Industry 5.0, then we can talk about them again later on together. But I would start with human centricity, then having resilience and sustainability. So human centricity, again, we have the focus on human well-being, creativity, collaboration with machines. So we are opening up a very new landscape in which the human being is cooperating with the machines. So they are no longer in two separated physical spaces and operating in two different workspaces, but they are cooperating in the same space at the same time. We will see a very clear example later on. Then we have resilience. As Marcus said in the introduction, we are facing disruptive events more and more often. So also calling them disruptive is becoming a bit of a paradox, because once they were happening once each many years, now they are happening very, very often. So we have to be ready in trying to understand how we can be disruptive, how our supply chain or our business can be disrupted the next time. And finally, we have sustainability. So sustainability is not just only about the green, about the planet, as we could think in jargon in everyday life, but in modern and contemporary exception, we also have the focus on people and on profit. So social and economic perspectives. We can say to be sustainable if we actually merge these three point of views, and we can maximize all of them. Back in the days, our main focus was placed on the profit. So I was not caring that much about the impact on the planet and the impact on people, positive or negative. I was caring about maximizing my profit as much as possible. Today, our focus is a bit shifted in between these three goals. Even though if you ask the CEO of a company, likely the main goal, obviously, at the end of the year is to capitalize as much as possible. But on the other hand, I have to understand that the people in my company are the ones that at the end of the day are going to make the quality of my company, and the impact that I have on the planet must be also something that I consider for sure. Four main challenges, starting from the cultural and mindset shift. Here we have what we call the resistance toward change of people, because when I introduce a change, people likely will not get the change in a positive way immediately. They have to understand that these have a positive impact for themselves, for the company, and then slowly maybe they will accept the change and will start behaving accordingly to the new organization. Then we have obviously the skill gaps and the workforce upskilling. We hear very often that the workforce nowadays should be reskilled and upskilled. This means that by introducing new technologies and new approaches, everybody in the company should move towards new skills and towards new capabilities. We have to be able to integrate technologies seamlessly and safely, of course, and this is very connected with both of the previous two issues that I mentioned. And finally, we have to find a sustainable business models and return on investment. This means that if I'm introducing a new technology, a new concept, likely if it has to play well for the human being, this will not play well in the same way for the return on investment. We will have a clear example on this also later on. So today we are looking at long-term investment because the investment that I do on human-centered solutions may not pay back in the short term. So when I say well-being, human well-being, I think about three different categories of well-being. So I think about the body domain, so the physical well-being. I think about the mental domain, the cognitive well-being, and the third but not least, last but not least, the perception domain, so the emotional well-being. We are people. We may be more or less technical, but at the end of the day, we all perceive emotions. And how we perceive emotions is also something important because then it affects the way I behave within my company. Really related to that, we have the concept of assistance systems. Nowadays, assistance systems may be used to support people or to try to include group of people that would not be normally included in one or the other field of our ecosystem. So I have physical assistance systems, and for example, here we have exoskeletons or collaborative robotics. I have sensorial assistance systems, so something that allows me to enhance my senses. And finally, I have cognitive assistance systems, so something that allows me to take decisions, for example, to decrease my cognitive effort and so on. And likely in the next presentations, we are also going to see several different examples of different types also of cognitive assistance systems based on also on artificial intelligence. For providing different examples, exoskeletons may have different applications. So here we are talking about the body sphere, we are talking about the physical domain. And the idea is to try to reduce the physical strain or to enhance endurance and to enhance physical power. Obviously, people selling this type of devices will tell us that these are the only benefits and that there are just benefits. Of course, there are limitations. So if you think that you are wearing something that can be bulky or restrictive for one or the other reason, and on that you are carrying also a load for a prolonged period of time, you may start asking yourself, does it make actually a positive sense to having this thing on my shoulder for the entire day? Or should I also think about which are the compromises that I have in this case? So the future direction goes in the idea of trying to understand in which applications this type of devices make sense and trying to study whether actually wearing exoskeletons may pay back also physically in the long run. We have also the example of collaborative robotics. Collaborative robotics opens up a new palette of new scenarios because I was used to see robots and autonomous machines enclosed into physical barriers, into physical fences, and they were safe inside there because the human being was not sharing the workspace. Well, today I am able to free the machines to place them on a table, on a work table, as we see in this picture, and the human being can directly work with the machine and even touch the machine. It may appear as something simple that does not have big consequences, but from the cognitive perspective, once again, we are opening up a huge number of problems and challenging because I don't know how the human being will react to the behavior of the robot, to the setup of the work cell, especially in the long run. So the question is, how does the human operator react physically and cognitively in the short term and in the long term to unpredictable behavior of a machine? Because the machine in this case is no longer coded for doing a very repetitive task, but here we also have decision-making delegated to the machine. We have variability of the process delegated to the machine. And in here, questions may arise. Big question is here the performance, recalling one of the issues that I mentioned before. If I'm implementing a cobot, I will for sure exploit the capabilities of a human being way more with respect to a traditional automated work cell, but likely we have observed that assembly cycle times will increase almost for sure. So here I have to be ready to play a balance to understand where is the trade-off between the implementation of the new technology and the economical aspect. Third point, I'm sorry about the title here, this is obviously wrong. Cognitive assistance systems. In this case, we have projection-based systems that allow us to project the instruction right there where they are needed and allow the operator to closely follow the instructions in a very seamless way. In this case, we can think of having faster ramp-up. So we have normal operators that may learn way faster, and this may allow us to spare resources and to reinvest them in somewhere else. But most importantly, we have the inclusion. I can think of including people with cognitive disabilities, for example, autism or attention disorders in production facilities. This means that we can enlarge our focus groups and include people that would not be normally have access in our facilities. And I think that from a social perspective, this is a very important perspective of human well-being. So not just the well-being of people who is already there, but also the well-being of people that could be included in our environment, but it's currently out of our environment due to one or the other limitation. Finally, I would like to recall a very simple example that also should trigger something in our mind, recalling the resistance toward change. If I'm talking about cybersecurity, it should be very obvious that nowadays we are very exposed because with all the technology that we have, all the connectivity that we have, being exposed to cyber attacks is something that we want to really avoid. But doing that costs money and costs a radical change in our organizations, because the way we treat data, the way we interact with our files, the way we interact with other systems becomes slightly more complicated, but at the same time, we gain the protection against cyber attacks. The point is, we have observed that in several companies, also both small and medium enterprises as well as large companies, we have observed that the resistance towards the application and adoption of this type of technologies is extremely high, just because the people do not trust the process and do not trust the technology, because the knowledge obviously is not there. Therefore, all the four issues that I mentioned before are extremely connected the one to the other. And I think that in order to reach the well-being of the human beings in our factories, we should start from number 1 up to number 4, but be able to touch all of these points and in our factory, in our organization, in order to boost the role of the human being in our organizations. So this is all by my side. I think I exploited 2 minutes more than expected. And I would leave now the word to Marco and to our next.
Thank you very much. Very interesting your speech. From our side, I can say that that these are topics that we see with companies since a while, because indeed when Industry 4.0 became something big in Italy, especially due to tax credits and so on. There was a strong focus on the technologies and on buying some new type of robots, for example. And so, for example, in the past few years, Italy ranked up being one of the first 12, I guess, robot buyers in robot markets in the world. And this is due to tax credits. But the goal is not just to buy something that you can call a robot, but to use it correctly. And so, yeah, the challenge is something that is very common, common in our experience. And I think that also the path for the solution is something that we share a lot, and also in the center project. Um, I would take this chance to also launch the second question about interactive question. So let's see if it's possible. Okay, thank you. So we would like to understand how uh, do you think which aspect the new technologies can improve the most? And yeah, clearly when we talk about new technologies, it's a very wide definition, because it can be robots, cobot, artificial intelligence, automatic vehicles, also um, for um, uh, for moving materials and so on. So this is something that is quite, but we would like to understand how you can see these technologies as a benefit. Okay, I'd like to give the floor to Alexander Marke from the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I hope you can see my screen. Is that working?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Yeah, so some words about myself. As already introduced, I'm from Germany, in the southwest part. The Karlsruhe Institute of Technology is a university and a large national research center. I'm heading at the so-called Institute for Information System, the Human-Centered Systems Lab. So what we do in our research is we deal how to design human-centered systems for better work and life. And this is also what I want to share with you today. It's actually a project funded by the German Ministry for Work and Social Affairs called Mensch KI. So this is German, and German means in Mensch is the human, and KI is AI, not surprisingly. And this is exactly the goal of the project. How do we humanize AI, and how do we promote well-being through learning and effective use when we introduce Gen AI-based workplace assistance? And I will talk in the next 15 minutes about what we did so far. The project runs now for 6 months, and I will share some preliminary results. And the key thing I want to emphasize is that learning is a key enabler for both employee well-being and productivity. So that is why we should care more about learning and how to support learning at work. So why is that a topic? I would say there's huge investments, obviously, in Gen AI these days. And I don't doubt that Gen AI, if implemented appropriately, can increase productivity. At the same time, there's evidence that there's not always good consequences or outcomes of Gen AI. So the study published in Harvard Business Review on the left-hand side showed that, yes, people get more productive, but they at the same time get less motivated. Or the right-hand study published in Nature Humanities and Social Science Communications even went further and showed that AI adoption increases job stress. So it's not like that AI makes our life necessarily always better. It may really negatively impact work. So that is why I argue we should care at both, and also the previous speaker emphasized that nicely, that when we implement, introduce, and use Gen AI at work, we need to care about productivity and employee well-being. But how? So this is a big goal, and it's not an easy answer how to ensure these both goals that may even conflict or contradict themselves. So this is exactly the project, and the good news is it's not like that research hasn't answers for that. There is a theory called the theory of effective use. I will introduce that in a second. It's a very practical theory, as it argues it's all about learning and adaptation, which is to some degree maybe obvious, but it's not so straightforward that if I give you a new Gen AI assistant at your work, how do you get up to speed with it? Yes, you need to understand what this thing can do for you, and then you may change your work behavior. And if you do that in an appropriate way, it may indeed increase your productivity and employee well-being. So, and these are the questions that we are dealing in this project. How does it impact workplaces in terms of well-being? And then how can we design learning and adaptation for employees? So what can we do to help people at work to exploit the technology in a positive way? As I said, it's funded by the Federal Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. We don't do that alone. We do that with companies, German companies, but maybe you know them. Most likely you know Allianz, a big insurance company, but EnBW is one of the largest utility providers in Germany, and HSAG is a mid-sized company providing services for utility companies. Why these companies? They implement a lot these days AI, and we have the chance to observe what's really going on at the workplace if you introduce things like Microsoft Copilot or other tools. So now this is a little bit of a heavy slide, sorry for that, but I try my best to explain it in a way that you can understand it. So the theory of effective use was published in 2013, and it basically argues in order to increase productivity with some information technology, you need to effectively use it. That means you need to understand how you interact with the system. You need to understand how the system represents information, and then you need to do informed actions. So this chain is actually not trivial, as typically, as you know by yourself, user interfaces are complex. So if you don't know the user interface, you can't do anything. Even if you understand the user interface, you not necessarily may understand what's the logic behind the interface. This is what they call the representational fidelity. And still then, if you understand the logic, you need to take actions. And if you do that all right, you increase your productivity in terms of effectiveness and efficiency. Now, two drivers for effective use, and this has been shown empirically, are adaptation and learning. And this is actually what we push for. We need to empower people to learn how to effectively use, and we need to ensure that people also adapt in order to effectively use. And the nice thing is that there is strong evidence with learning that well-being can be achieved through learning. And there's another paper that I refer here that there's a lot of evidence that when people learn, it pays off in terms of obviously productivity because you know what you do. But when you learn, you also feel more self-confident. You're more satisfied what you're doing. And that is why it also positively influences employee well-being. And this is exactly what we want to research in more detail in this project. So let me give you an example how we push for learning when using generative AI. And before I do so, I want to introduce quickly how we can support learning. You obviously know the concept of AI literacy. This is a multiple concept which covers not only knowledge, but also looks at different proficiency dimensions. This is a recently published paper that did a nice job in conceptualizing literacy. Because at the end, you know, having the knowledge is not enough. You need to be aware, you need to be able to apply the knowledge in terms of skills and competencies, and you need to build up experience. And the point with AI is it's not only the algorithms, the tools, but it's also how you deal with it within your organization, with your colleagues. So there is a lot of research, obviously, how we can push for learning. And on a nutshell, it can be formal learning, like lecture courses, exercises, artifact-based, using tools that you use in trainings, or informal learning. Informal learning is powerful as this is really part of your, let's say, daily life. It's learning during doing, community-based, self-directed, exercise-based, or, and this is what we are exactly interested in, is so-called self-directed artifact-based. That sounds fancy, but in a nutshell, it means it's a system that explains what it does to you during use. So software that is self-explaining, that trains you and you grow with the software. That is mean you learn together with the system. And this is exactly what we did in our research. And we did that in the company EnBW. And they do a lot these days, so-called data assistants. So what are data assistants? Whenever you analyze data, you can use your good old spreadsheet. This is painful. You may even have some more fancy tools like Microsoft Power BI, Tableau. Still, you have to manually do the data analysis. And with generative AI, you can basically just call an agent that does the job for you. So the agent explores the data and then presents the data in some nice charts. The problem with that is it sounds great, but we also have observed that people may not fully exploit the potential of data assistants as they just don't understand how to use them. They may not even be satisfied with the results because they are less confident. Even worse, they may not critically reflect the responses because obviously AI makes mistakes. So I need to be reflective in terms of, do I trust this guy or should I rather check it twice? So our question was how to provide guidance to support informal learning when using these data assistants. And this is what we ended up. These are 3 different designs. You may know this from ChatGPT-like interactions. A very straightforward design on the left-hand side is the baseline design, where you just ask a question like, okay, how many orders did we get from London? And then you get the response, there's 921 orders. You may actually also use process guidance, as we call it, or analysis process guidance, where we explain what's going on so that you understand, okay, it looks up in a database some tables, and then it picks a table and it does some whatever database query that counts the number of orders, and then I get a response. This is one thing. And the other thing that we did is that we created so-called data domain guidance tips, where we explain the model to the users. And this is where now learning starts. The better you understand the data, the better you can query the system, the better you can ask a natural language question. What we did then is we tried in experiment these different design variants. And we obviously also did a variant where we combined both informal learning methods. And we could show that indeed with these learning methods, people achieve higher effective use, which then should create higher productivity, and learning should also pay off when it comes to well-being. So that is one first result we achieved as part of this project. You see here, this is a very specific design for informal learning, but in general, we could ask ourselves, how can we generalize this? And the key point that I want to make here is, when taking care of productivity and well-being, we need to ensure that we take care of the human. And the human, at the end of the day, is all about learning and adaptation. As the theory tells us, we need to empower humans, and we need to also give them the right, let's say, mindset and concepts so that they can leverage the potential. We showed that informal learning is one interesting approach. And that is exactly where I would draw your attention. Unfortunately, the project web page is right now only in German, but AI easily translates. But what we will do in the near future is we will offer very practical guidance and solutions so that you may also implement this as part of your organization or your projects. That's all from my side. That was a very quick insight in what's going on within the project and also our research. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. This is indeed a very current topic. Generative artificial intelligence is something that brings lots of opportunities, but needs to be used correctly. And a project that studies and analyzes how to support, how to, which are the key, the approach to use it correctly, and to do that. This is something that is very valuable. So thank you for your contribution. It's very interesting as a topic. Before giving the word to the last speaker for today, I'd like to launch the third and last question to the public, so that we can thank you. So in the previous question, we asked about the strong point, the positive side, but obviously all technologies have also a downside. So we would like to ask you what are the risks for of new technologies about this. In the meanwhile, I would like to give the word to Pier Mattia Avesani from Ukido.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, hi everybody, I'm Pierre, and I founded Ukido 15 years ago. So we are 40 people building digital tools like digital platforms, AI platforms, or IoT applications, or software in general. And I'm super happy to be here expressing my point of view on this super, urgent topic. In the image, you see a little part of the team working together on their point of view of Ukido from the moon. So, part of the retreat that we have done last year. I wanted to begin this presentation making clear how much we rely on people to prosper and grow together, not on technology. But, we are talking about technologies today. And I wanted to start from this point of view. Thousands of years ago, one of our ancestors hit two stones together and made a sharper edge. And the spark was not only the birth of a new tool for them, but it was the birth of a new kind of human, a new kind of animal on the earth. And each time we create a better tool, we step farther away from raw nature and closer to conscious design. So artificial intelligence is the latest edge on the very old stone that we talked about. So my message today is simple: the more powerful the tools we build, and the more human we can become. Of course, if we choose wisely the use of the tool. So why AI and why now? Why everybody is talking about that now? Because we are entering in the age of agentic AI. So if classic AI learns patterns and make predictions, generative AI goes farther. It invents, it generates text, code, images, and even strategies, and it seems like it reasons. And agentic AI begins to choose its own sequence of actions. So costs are falling, models are open, and every company right now can experiment, just as fire, wheel, and electricity once spread beyond the first inventors and the first patents. So I want to share with you 8 real-world stories that Ukido worked on in the last months or years, just to make it clear that this thing is happening since long time, and AI is invented like 50 years ago, but there were not so much data and so much computing power to make it disruptive. And in these 8 short stories, you will see some real world application. So the first one is around Silka, key cutting machine reseller. And we have built in the last 4 years for them computer vision and AI algorithm that recognize key shapes or informations in seconds, so freeing technicians from manual work and errors. In this case, we are at the end of the fridge creation chain, where before AI, a complete test of the fridge took 6 hours. So, of course, they could not test all of the fridge going out from the factory. And with AI, it just takes 5 minutes to test the fridge to predict possible errors on the fridge in the future. So better service from the end of line, workers. In this case, this plant produces specific kind of wood and furniture. So our cameras can count dusty wooden sheets and route them automatically, protecting workers' lungs and saving 30% of material waste, and of course, classification errors. In this case, we are in the end of the eyewear line with in reality, it's the beginning of the line. We're receiving the materials. So where a woman all day long in front of a very bright light need to detect some kind of quality leak. And with AI, we can do that control without errors and on all the sheets that are coming in instead of 1% of them. In this case, this company produces, the aligners, the invisible aligners that, of course, that are around. And right now, even if we are in the digital world, there is a process called waxing, because it reproduces the real world process where an operator puts some wax on the holes on the mouth. There is somebody right now doing it in the digital world, but that's almost the same procedure. You need to automatically decide where and put wax on the holes. And with AI, we can do that automatically. In these 2 cases, we have 2 different kind of solutions. In one case is in the electronics supply chain, where a generative agent cleans messy parts list and suggests suppliers in minutes, turning a week-long spreadsheet chore into a quick negotiation. So it's a bill of material automatic, procedures. And in the other case, we are in a huge public service in Italy that builds tools for developers and citizens, and they can get through a chatbot instant answers trained on the documentations, like thousands of documents from the company. And they can also support teams spend their energy on complex cases that need more, empathy, not copy and paste. And in this last case, you see that on field service operations, chatbot can answer the technician question. So NLP search over manuals in a single click, keeping machines running and removing the hunt for PDF frustration while you are on a roof maybe, or something like that. So across all the 8 stories, there is one single pattern that you can remove the drudgery. The computers can do the computer task, letting human making the human part of the job. The AI can amplify the expertise because you are more expert using that tool. You can be more expert using the tool, and so you climb the value chain. You are a manager of that knowledge instead of the keeper of the knowledge. And then, of course, right now it's not really happening in all the situation, but it will soon happen that new roles are created. Not just, the prompt engineer, the data ethicist, the AI product manager, not just that, but also given the fact that you climb the value chain, you, of course, are a new kind of manager in your field. I've seen a new video from a YouTube video that you can have a look at that. I think that he was interviewed by Time or by something. You find it on YouTube, an interview of Harari, the famous writer and expert in general. And he warned that AI is no longer just a tool, and I agree with that. It's an agent right now that can influence our choices. The point is that, for example, social media influenced our choices since the last 10 years, okay? So it's a new tool, but humans already faced challenges like that, good or bad. And our future depends on pairing smarter machines with smarter ethics. So that's something that had already been said this morning. So the question is not, will AI take our jobs? The real question is, will we shape AI to enhance a meaning or to erode it in our lives? There is, of course, Sam Altman at Y Combinator described the next wave of AI as something that will be able to take action in the physical world, powered by dedicated hardware. And I suppose that he was thinking about the new John Eve startup that acquired that OpenAI acquired. So that's the near future. That's the future of the next 4 or 5 years. So we need to cope with that and think about how to use it for the well-being of our people. And when software gets hands and wheels with hardware, and every workflow will be reimagined, not just the digital workflows as right now, but also everyone. So our job again is to guide that power toward the flourishing of humans. I wanted also to give you my last words on a little compass for everybody, in my experience, of course, so without any kind of ambition to be the truth, the general truth. But my point of view is that it's very, necessary and also intelligent, I think, or reasonable right now to start small in any case. And this is already being said this morning, because that's the only way, not because that's one way, but I think that's the only way to actually deal with a technology that changes every 3 weeks, totally changes every 3 weeks, getting super more advanced. And to keep in mind these 3 characteristics for all the projects, all the processes, everything that we are doing with AI. It needs to be feasible, it needs to be viable, but the main point is that it needs to be desirable from the users that are using it. So these are our 3, criteria that we use to understand if a project could be a success in every way. And then we need to train and learn and make everybody learn how to use that, of course, how to govern that, not just use that. And then stick with KPIs. And the right KPIs will be, super important, because if you just measure some kind of KPIs, you don't build something, maybe the solution or the company or the society grows in one direction, forgetting the other direction. So KPIs are the main, topic to guide this evolution. So from stone blades to steam engines to neural networks, technology is how we own our story, and the tools alone do not define us. The way we use them does, of course. And yeah, and we can say that about, in these times, we can say that about all that's happening all over the world, also outside technology. So yeah, I think that I want, with Ukido, I want to build AI that makes us more curious, more caring, more human in the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I think that, very interesting presentation. I'd like just to add a point from a research that was carried out by the University of Venice in the past few months, that focused also on the impact on jobs of AI and generative AI especially, because the point is that the best value of AI is exactly on eliminating and taking care of a repetitive task, as you showed. So of everything that is a burden in day-to-day activity, and leaving creativity to humans. And this was a bit in contrast with the fears of the workers, because on one side, creative people are the most afraid of being replaced by AI, because indeed you can see lots of things, but in the end, often you can see that to have the final step, the final steps for success, you need to have some kind of human intervention. And while on the other side, often the low-skilled workers are not worried too much about the risk of being replaced by AI, and at the same time, they often are the most at risk. And the explanation is that they are less aware of what AI is, and this is something that is quite common, and we've seen also throughout your presentations, because understanding what is what are the new technologies, what is AI, and how it can be used is a challenge for itself. Okay, I'd say that if someone has some of the participants has some question, you can share it in the chat. But in the meanwhile, we can see the result of the question that we shared in during this comment. So let's say that we can start from the first question that was about you believe that advanced technologies contribute to the well-being at work. And yeah, this is quite interesting because compared to the effects on productivity, that was a question on the last webinar, in the last the effect of productivity, everyone agreed that would have impacted a lot, and or at least somewhat. In this case, we can see that the answers are much more shared. So there are many that thinks that the impact will be a lot positive, but also many that think that the impact will be not so strong. And but I think that it's interesting that nobody says that there is no positive impact from the new technologies. So I'd like to ask to the speaker a comment, a short comment to this question. Maybe we can start from Matteo. What do you think about this result?
So, well, if you ask me, how much do I believe that advanced technologies?
Yes, and if you think about yes, and also what you think about the answer of the participant. But first of all, what you think about this?
So, also in view of the presentations that we had today, I guess that for sure my answer would be in between the first and the second, so a lot or somewhat. But the main point for sure is how do we understand technology, and how deep do we understand the technology in order to support people? Because in the example that you, Marco, were doing before, when we in Italy got a lot of support, financial support to buy, for example, robotic equipment or Industry 4.0 equipment, we purchased a lot of collaborative robots in our industries, but they were used as traditional robots, just because maybe they are a little simpler to code, but they were not used indeed as a support for the human beings. Therefore, I would really reconnect back to the thing you were saying before. So the understanding of the technology or of the approaches, the techniques, in order then to actually know what we have in our hands, and then be able to properly support the human beings, especially to reach a proper well-being.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I'd say Mr. Matke.
Yeah. I find it
what do you think?
I find it very interesting, as it somehow contradicts the study that I mentioned in terms of stress. So what these guys found out is that indeed AI can increase stress. And here people argue, okay, it helps me in managing stress. So what we also did, we did some research on multitasking. And the crazy thing is, all know multitasking is bad. But with AI, you can even more multitask, because you have your agents and they can do even more in parallel. And that may drive us humans crazy, because we are not designed for running many tasks in parallel. So my point is, maybe also this session today is helpful to reflect a little bit if it really helps you with your stress, or maybe on a longer run, it rather increases stress. And this shouldn't be the case. So we need to design technologies that it really helps humans and not makes life even harder as it is. So let's see how it ends up. But I also think there's quite a long way that we have to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very interesting point. Also, let's keep in mind that the question that we're making here are not a statistical sample. So if there is some contradiction with some scientific studies, I think that we can understand this. But I think that it is positive that the people participating today are optimistic, at least. That is a good starting point, because as you said, these technologies can be complex, can be under stress. So if you are also afraid of them, it is additional stress that sums up. So let's praise the optimism, at least. Pier Mattia,
Yeah,
what do you
yeah,
think?
yeah. I think that there are two sides of this question. The one side is how much do you use it for your well-being, and the other side is how much do you think advanced technologies can help well-being? Because the answers were a little bit on the first side, and I can say that it completely changed how I manage my company, because if managing a company is based on data, with AI I've built a lot of scripts that they take data from the different ERPs and collecting that and analyzing that automatically. So it helps me a lot. So of course AI advanced my well-being at work as a manager. But if the question is based on on the general topic, so how much do you think that advanced technologies can help well-being, it depends on what's well-being on the job, on a work, because we are different people, and of course it's a tool. But if working is not your main priority, because you realize yourself outside your work, for example, that's a possibility. And how much AI will help you, I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. Yeah, that's a question. It depends on how your company uses it.
Yeah, you had, and obviously the fact that this is something that is evolving rapidly add also difficulty to answer to your question, because clearly we have to see and evolve and wait, but we cannot wait too much, because otherwise we stay too much behind. So,
Yeah, there are
but
billions of people and billions of way to see the work, and I think that right now there is place at work for somebody that doesn't really want to make a difference in that world. They just want to survive,
yeah.
to make some money, to live outside something else. And I think that's right that they are able to do that. But maybe AI in this case, I don't know how much is impacting you in a
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's see the answer to the second question, that maybe can help us to also better understand also this result from the first question. So the second question was exactly on on which aspect of the work the new technologies can help. And so the multiple answers were allowed. So that's why you can see that the sum is more than 100%. But indeed, the reduction of repetitive task is something that is the most common answer, as well as time management and task organization. So again, Matteo, do you share this vision, or?
So by looking at the results, the preferences of the participants appear to be quite spread among the different choices. And what comes to my eyes is the fourth point, so reducing repetitive and mundane tasks through automation. And the automation keyword is quite interesting here because we are talking about the human centrism, right? And the word automation always made us quite afraid to having our jobs substituted, and there was a discussion that we also heard in one of the previous presentations. So in here, I think there is a lot of awareness about the fact that modern tools can maybe take away part of our everyday tasks, the repetitive ones, for example, and leaving us the time to actually focus on the value-adding tasks that we can make better with respect to machines. And from here, that's the takeaway that I bring home. So I think this is quite interesting, also because it's the most chosen answer.
Thank you, Mr. Badke.
Yeah, and this is actually reasonable, I would say. And I think, when we talk about work well-being, I would always, it's not about companies to provide workplaces where it's only about well-being. So at the end, companies need to earn money. So it's also about productivity. So I was asking myself, if you look at these answers, is it now just for work well-being, or is it also for work productivity? Or is it for both? Ideally, we would find cases where we increase productivity and well-being, which may be not easy. I would argue with automation, if applied right, you definitely increase productivity, but you also feel better because you get rid of these boring tasks. But this, I was when I read your question, I was asking myself, is it just about well-being? Is life about well-being only? Maybe, but I'm not sure if we then win against our friends in US and China.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, no, it's a very interesting point because obviously there are lots of elements that need to be put together, and it's always a bit difficult also to define what we want to achieve also, and as also Mattia was saying before, because yeah, each person and each company has a different vision on how things should work. And so, yeah, indeed, it is quite complex also to define what is well-being and what is about productivity, and is being productive with less effort an element of well-being on itself or not? This is something that indeed is an interesting question. Mattia, you do want to say?
Yeah, I agree with the 71%. But by the way, I wanted to tell you a story because this morning I went into a bank. I know that this sentence is, I mean, I've never done it. I don't know also at the ATM, but I need a check. I needed a check. So I don't know what's a check, by the way. I've never requested one. So yeah, it seemed to be very 90s. But I went there and I asked this woman, and she told me, okay, if it's above 5,000 euros, so I need to ask the director of your bank. But I said something like, this is my bank. No, but you opened the account like 22 years ago in another, no. So I need to ask him, but I know who is him. She told me. Okay, so yeah, I need to look for him. Okay, I found him like 15 minutes later. I found him. Oh, she is drinking a coffee. So right now he's not able to. Okay, so what? So I don't have a check right now, so I need to go back this afternoon. And I'm not in a mountain. I mean, I'm in the city center of Verona, not in a remote place. So when I will read on the newspaper that, you know, banks are firing people, I don't know. And by the way, let's assume that we found this guy. I suppose that he needed to open his computer to check if some parameter was okay. I don't know, but not, of course, not his opinion, not his personal opinion or his empathic opinion, but just, you know, if some software told something about my check. And by the way, they are my money, so I don't know what they need to check, by the way, but that's another story. So advanced technology will help well-being. Was this woman happy for the service that, or for the work that she was doing? I don't know. So yeah, I think that tells my opinion about the second one.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you mentioned, in fact, we have some element of our economy that are running very, very fast, and then you find some element that yeah, come from the last century at least, and maybe sometimes for the first part of the last century. And this is something that we can see also in our day-to-day life with many bureaucratic burdens that we can see with companies and so on. By the way, since you were mentioning this, as C2I, we are carrying out several digital maturity assessment in several projects, including also recent. But one common element that comes out when we talk with the small companies is okay, yes, we would like to use more technologies, but most of all, we would like to have a simplification of all the bureaucratic processes, because then you use AI, you use generative intelligence, and then you have to print a form, fill it by hand, and put a stamp of it on it. Yeah, so this is something that is indeed quite challenging. Okay, let's go to the third and last question that we shared, so that we focused a bit on the, let's say, negative side. So the possible concerns. So it's interesting, in my opinion, that the main worry, even if they are quite shared, is about the difficulty in using them and lack of proper that, I mean, it's very related also to the presentation of Mr. Matke, and so I'd say that he can start commenting, about this.
Yeah, sure. Indeed, and this is also what I wanted to stress, is this learning thing. And I'm not even sure if training is the right name, because learning doesn't happen just in one training. We all know how we learn. It takes time, and then we evolve together with the system. The system has new functionality. So I believe this is one of the biggest things we need to take care, that we just don't throw these fancy technologies to our employees and then hope that there will be a happy end. No, there will not be a happy end. For some people, there may be a happy end, but I think this is the biggest problem when it comes to these new technologies, and they damage if you use them wrong. And this is nothing new. Also, other technologies damaged, and I'm not sure if you want that. So this is, yes, a big thing. And yes, privacy and control of data. This is the bigger topic of how dependent are we in general of technology that is not operated in Europe. There was just recently this shutdown of OpenAI for one day, and then people didn't know what they do anymore without it. So not optimal. But Okay, I think this is something we need to take care of in terms of where we operate the systems. This is more infrastructure question, but the learning or training is the biggest one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Pier Mattia, so you are not always the last that I ask a
No.
question to.
Yeah. By the way, I agree with 35% of people. Lack of proper training. I think that point also influences the first two questions. If I don't know the potential, application of the technology, I cannot also see that technology influence the well-being of, of somebody. And that's the point. For example, we with some customer, we have done some master class on Copilot and Copilot use, and they didn't know that sharing info and documents with those kind of LLM actually represented, giving away reserved and confidential information, or that information that can be used to train, with other answers. So just for security reason, also for, for everything is, and I agree with Alexander. We need to understand how is the proper training, the proper way of training.
Thank you, thank you. So, a comment by Matteo De Marchi.
Sure. So I obviously, more or less obviously, agree with my colleagues. By my side, I would like to know, then maybe in the future a bit better our audience and the background of our audience, because I would have expected something more on the first point, on the first answer, because from our experience, we are making some studies also on about the concerns about ethical usage of AI and trustworthiness on AI, and the big discussion around privacy and control over the personal data is also something very tangible nowadays. And this also goes down, of course, to the training and also to awareness and consciousness of the tools that we are using. So even though the numbers are not maybe significant because they are small numbers, but I'm also surprised to not see the first one winning. But yeah, of course, I build up on top of what they said before, of what Pier Mattia and Alexander said before, that of course we also have to dedicate proper resources to training to fulfill also this lack of knowledge.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers today. I think that it was a very interesting discussion. I'd like just to stress again what Alexander was saying before about the concept of training, because indeed the challenge now is that, especially with the rapidly evolving technologies, is not about formal training anymore. And the challenge is that you have to learn, but maybe the typical training tools are not so useful anymore. It's very difficult to make a training course, traditional training course on how to use generative AI, since from when you start a course and then when you end it, you risk that everything is changed. So, but I think that what we've seen is that anyway, there can be some optimism, and that the new technologies can at least use it to increase the workers' well-being. That obviously there has lots of challenges that we've seen, but that needs to be considered and addressed. And again, thanks to all the speaker, thanks to all the participants. You will receive in the next few days an email also with the link to the survey that I was mentioning in the beginning. And obviously, if anyone has any question, even in the next days, or if you wanted to get in touch with the speakers, don't hesitate to contact us so that we can create the connection or answer your request. And again, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to the speaker. Thank you to all the participants, and have a nice day. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everybody.